Hey, welcome back. My name is Amber Campbell. I am an indie author and a freelance editor. Today's video is going to piggyback off of last week's video. So last week we talked about blending in with traditionally published titles as a self-published author. We looked at trim size, title, formatting, and the front cover design. So today we are going to delve deeper into that, specifically looking at, yet again, more notes. We're going to be looking at blurbs, taglines, hooks, whichever you'd like to call them. We'll be looking at the pricing, and we're also going to look at the back covers. Interestingly enough, I went on to Amazon. Not all of these had a back cover. Some of them were only ebook, which is understandable, but even when I clicked on paperback and hardcover, there was no back image to look at before you bought it, which I thought was really weird. As far as I know, when I upload, thank you dogs, when I upload to KDP, at least, it's asking me for the wraparound, and then it cuts it in half and shows that as the backside. So I'm not sure how these companies or self-published authors got around that. But without further ado, let's dive into it with the biggest topic, which is your blurb and your tagline / hook. Before we dive directly into the first blurb, I want to give a little bit of context for those who are new to maybe the marketing side of writing and have never actually considered writing a blurb and a tagline. So firstly, a blurb is defined as a short description of a book, movie, or other product written for promotional purposes and appearing on the cover of a book or in an advertisement, versus a tagline, which is a short, memorable description that succinctly and clearly communicates the brand message. So really quickly, a great example of a tagline, a hook, is if you were on Instagram and you are anywhere involved in the book space. I know you have heard of user Brianne Randall, also known as House of Randall. She is the one who, within the course of a year, had over 100,000 followers growth. She was published after 10 years of rejections, all because her tagline hook is specifically The Gilmore Girls Meets Practical Magic book. Its title is The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic. But that tagline is what sold it online. That is how she gained, 10 times her followers on Instagram. I think it's even higher than that now. In the course of a year, because that hook, that tagline, is what drew everybody in. So the blurb and the tagline are not the same thing. Tagline, think of it more like an elevator pitch. It shouldn't even be that long, to be honest. But a one sentence to max about what your book is, maybe the tropes, what the plot might entail, which book, which TV series it's relating to. For my poetry, I often compare it to Taylor Swift or Halsey or Olivia Rodrigo. And those, I feel, get the message across in the fastest way possible, especially because my latest collection, I say it's Reputation meets Lover, the two opposite aesthetics that she has, and I just kind of meshed them together. And that usually tells a reader way more than they need to know about the collection if they're a Swiftie. I understand, it's limited to Swifties, but let's be honest, I'm wearing my Taylor shirt. You can't even see it, but that's okay. So my Swifties get it, and I've already had a couple early reviews that mention directly the Swiftie level pettiness, I think is how they coined it as. But that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the blurbs and seeing if there's a tagline in any of these blurbs, or specifically something in that bold, because some of these you'll see do have a bolded sentence or two, that we can kind of consider the tagline, or at least, at the very least, the hook that is going to draw the readers in when they're scrolling through Amazon looking for the next book. First up, we're going very broad. We are going straight for Rupi Kaur again. Her blurb for Milk and Honey is, the book is divided into 4 chapters, and each chapter serves a different purpose, deals with a different pain, heals a different heartache. Milk and Honey takes readers through a journey of the most bitter moments in life and finds sweetness in them, because there is sweetness everywhere if you are just willing to look. Very short, very to the point. For poetry, I would recommend keeping it this short. You can definitely go a little bit longer. I would say maybe about 200 to 250 words for poetry is usually perfect. But again, we're not looking for the plot. We're not looking for tropes. We just kind of want to know what we're getting into. So this one we know is going to deal with pain and heartache and seeing good things in pain. We got all of that from, what is that, 6 sentences maybe? So that's what we're looking for in the blurb. As I mentioned, I think this is a little bit on the shorter side. However, going the opposite way. We're going to Courtney Pepperell for Time Will Tell. This one's a little bit longer, but we do see that bold intro that I mentioned before. So hers is Time Will Tell is a collection of introspective poetry from best-selling author Courtney Pepperell. Come along and discover what it means to start inward and evolve into the version of yourself the universe knows you can be. Skipping down, presented in 6 captivating sections, reflecting, repairing, change, awakening, emerging, and rebirth. Time Will Tell tells the story of a curious lost soul who crashed down to earth on the search for purpose. I'm only going to read that much. I'm still going to leave it on the screen for you guys. But again, the bold tells us overall what we're getting into, especially if we've already read something by Courtney Pepperell. That's all we need to know is come along and discover what it means to start inward. And then the second one I read was a curious lost soul who crashed down to earth on the search for purpose. That is all we need to know. This is more purpose-driven, journey-driven poetry. Maybe not necessarily pain and healing. I'm sure that's a part of it, but it's more about the journey there. And so that's what your blurb should do. It should give us some idea of what your poetry is going to be. It should give us an idea of the voice. As you can see, this one is written in a little bit more profound. Not even sure if that's the right word. I'm trying to think of it. Rupi Kaur is always very conversational. Courtney Pepperell is often conversational, but sometimes she can get a little bit deeper in her writing style. It's very hard to explain without like having them right on the page in front of me. Like I said, it's been 10 years since I was in college, 10 years since I had to write a paper about the book, so it's been a minute. But this also, I think, is a great example, perfect length. It's got the bold, the tagline that we're going to read right first. It's going to draw us in, and it's broken up in sections. That is very, very important. So I'm going to dive into some that I think were lacking. And again, I am an indie author. I am not putting shade on anybody, but here's what I would recommend changing about some of them to draw in more potential readers. Next up, we are going to look at Nicole Sams. I am so sorry. I know I'm mispronouncing that. She is the Sun, a collection of poetry. This is her blurb. Right away, I am taken back to my business class back in high school where they said white space, white space, white space for your resumes. This is the same thing. We need some breaks in there. This is a huge chunk, especially if you're on your mobile phone. That's going to be really hard to read. That's why, especially in blogs, there's a lot of small paragraphs, but that's because when you're reading on a screen, you need a different style of writing. So this one, right away, this collection of poetry is about power, resilience, overcoming hard times, and unleashing the chains we put on ourselves. Right away, I would put that in bold and then separate it from the next sentence and probably divide that into maybe 3 paragraphs, or at least see where we can cut back. Because remember, we want to read the poems and the collections or the book, whatever we're looking at, but we don't want to feel like we've already read it. That's always my biggest thing with movie trailers, is some of these trailers are 4 or 5 minutes long, which is ridiculous in and of itself, but I also feel like I've just seen the whole movie. I need to see the last 10 minutes and I can tell you the entire movie. We want to avoid that with our blurbs. We do not want the reader to have an idea. So what I'm looking at this is that if you look, she's got stories of heartache, and then a little bit further down, it's stories I treasure the most. And what that's telling me is she's actually explaining each individual section with its own mini blurb. We don't want to do that. We want to entice the reader with the section names themselves, and then that overall opening line to let them know what the collection in general is going to be about. So I would recommend bolding that first line, taking out the summaries of the individual sections, and just letting the overall theme of the book speak for itself. The next one I'm going to go into is Poems for the End of the World by Katie Wismer. This is one that we looked at last time, and this is more of the style that you'll see from indie poets, which is actually what you'll see with my own. And same thing, the quick bold line, if you are underwhelmed by me, please just let me go. That is a direct line from that collection, and right away it's going to draw a reader in and wonder, okay, I really relate to this, I'm going through something like that right now, let me see what else it is. And it goes on to say, Poems for the End of the World is a coming-of-age collection and exploration of the sometimes disillusioning trek through your 20s. It's divided into 4 chapters: waking up, growing pains, crushing realities, and disappointing beginnings. That right there tells us everything we need. Kona, where are you going? Kona, oh my heavens. Kona, that's the big one. Okay, guys, the squirrel? Squirrel. Go get it. Go get the squirrel. Okay, good. Okay. I think they're gonna go back. I may restart this whole section. Hold on. But we got the bold, we got the tagline, we have all of the sections, we know what we're getting into. Specifically, it's a coming of age collection. That right there is going to draw on anybody who's a late teen or anybody in their 20s, and they know that collection is going to speak directly to them. So this one was really well done as well. I do like the Poems for the End of the World blurb, and then I also like Time Will Tell. I think it's a little long, but I think it didn't give away too many details either, which is what I really loved about it. I don't know why I'm trying to make these videos like 10-15 minutes, and I feel like I'm just a 20 to 25 minute video girly. Trying not to be. I just talk a lot. Up next, we're going back to June Bates, but this time we're looking at the Lavender Haze. And so the blurb for hers, again, is really short. I think it's too short. Following up her best-selling collection, She Is the Poem, June Bates is back with her second book. The Lavender Haze is a collection of poetry on sapphic love. We're going to get into two things here. One, she said sapphic love, which means there is no blurb needed. It's going to find its audience based on those two words, and she doesn't really have to put in a whole lot of effort, which is, quite frankly, I think why She Is the Poem did so well, because there wasn't a lot of poetry that was specifically called sapphic love poetry. Like, that is branded on her books. And so I think that if this was just a poetry about love in general, I think she would need a much longer blurb to really understand why it's different from others. And so, but she is an example of kind of finding a niche that is very undeveloped and then just taking control of it. She's actually published a third book called Mythic Blues. I haven't read that one. I haven't read Lavender Haze yet. But let's actually just really quick, I'm not going to put anything up on screen. I just want to see how she did the same way for Mythic Blues, which is sapphic poetry on love and heartbreak. And so following up her best-selling collections, She's the Poem and The Lavender Haze. Lola, thank you. June Bates is back with another book on sapphic poetry. This collection tackles heartbreak, love, and queer identity. It also includes a short retelling of the Hades and Persephone myth. Okay, this one we're getting a little bit more detail. This is what we want to see in a blurb. We want to know what we're getting into. We want to see, like, Hades, Persephone. That alone would draw me in, because I love those retellings. I don't care how overdone they are. That is my thing. So, but it's crazy because this book, I'm looking at Mythic Blues, it came out in June of last year, has 5 ratings, and then we have The Lavender Haze, which is at 400, and then we have She's the Poem, the one that took the poetry world by storm, with like 500 ratings, 900 on Goodreads. And so I think that's just something to consider, is that, especially with poetry, as niche as it is, you can have something go viral and do fantastic, and your second and third might not do as well. And T. Taylor talks on this really well in her Butter book. Don't remember the name. I'll put it up here. I think it's actually back there somewhere. But it's like Universal Butter in Universal Fantasy. And you kind of have to figure out what it is that readers loved about your poetry, of the one that did really well, and then try to copy that formula for your other collections. I'm not saying copy it word for word, obviously, but if there was a certain theme that readers resonated the most, maybe your voice just brought it out so much stronger than anything else, maybe you want to focus on that one, and if that does really well, then you know you found your voice. Now you just have to make that voice work with the other emotions or themes that you want to tackle. So obviously June Bates is focusing on the sapphic love poetry, and she's, took over the niche for that. That's great. But for new poets coming out, trying to publish, you just want to make sure that you're highlighting the thing that might make you different, or how you did it differently. That's what we're looking for in these blurbs. And of course, I'm going to throw my own in there so that everybody can judge that as well. So this is for Mist Arrows, the one's coming out next month. A beast, a monster, a renegade, and a bard, whomever shall a fair maiden choose. Divided between 4 sections, Mist Arrows is a collection of poetry following the paths taken when Cupid's arrow doesn't quite hit. Conversational poetry blends with fairy tale inspiration as the fair maiden traverses the land and encounters a scorned man, a cruel lover, a wistful flame, and an irresistible musician. For nothing brings a maiden closer to love than the scars of missed arrows. That right in itself, I'm hoping, is going to draw some more readers, because it is a fairy tale inspired selection of poetry. It's told in a storyline, but it is still done in those 4 sections, and they are called Beast, Monster, Renegade, and Bard. And that in itself, I hope, is also something different that's going to draw them in. It's not necessarily a look at just the themes or the emotions, but it's following that more of that plot storyline. And so I feel like the blurb, you should spend so much time on figuring out which direction you want to go and how you want to aim it. What you see in bold is what I usually put on my YouTube shorts for when I'm marketing the book, is who would you choose? The Beast, Monster, Renegade, or Bard? And then I will also create shorts with like, oh, if you pick the Beast, these are the songs you'll probably relate to the most. If you picked Bard, these songs are what you can expect. That kind of thing. But let me know in the comments down below which of these blurbs resonated with you and which one you thought actually offered the best overall look of the book and would actually drive you to purchase it. Alright, you guys, we are in the second part of the video, which is the pricing. Keep in mind, as an indie author, your prices probably won't be as high as traditionally published authors, especially where the ebook is concerned. You will see most of these are at least $10 for the ebook. I personally don't agree with that, because I don't see why you would pay $10 to buy a book and not be able to hold it in your hand. That's just me personally. But without further ado, let's dive right into it and kind of do this a little fast as I talk about it, and then we can go into a little bit more detail at the end. Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur, $9.99 for the ebook, $14.99 for the paperback, 208 pages. Time Will Tell by Courtney Pepperell, almost similar, $9.99 for the ebook, $16.99 for the paperback, 224 pages for the paperback. By the way, the page counts is for the paperback only. I know ebook has one, it's usually not accurate. She Is the Sun by Nicole Sam, no ebook there, $8.99 for the paperback, it's 150 pages. Poems for the End of the World by Katie Wismer is $3.99 for the ebook, $10.24 for the paperback, that is 110 pages. Envelope Poems by Emily Dickinson. The ebook is $14.95, as is the paperback, which is absolutely ridiculous. That is absurd. 96 page count for the paperback. Oh my god, no. Missed Arrows, my own, is $3.99 for the ebook, $10.99 for the paperback, 126 pages. And lastly, The Lavender Haze by June Bates. Again, no ebook here, not sure why. And hey guys, $12.99 for the paperback, 119 is the page count. So, in this day and age, there is no reason for you to not publish an ebook if you're publishing a paperback or a hardcover. Always do it. I do not recommend putting it anywhere near $9.99 or $14.95, just because I wouldn't buy from any author an ebook at that price, because as I said, I can't hold it in my hand. But always have the ebook option there. If you just don't really want to bother with it and you just want to put it on Kindle Unlimited, just, find someone who can format it. Ebook's usually a lot easier to format than paperback. You don't need half as much of the special little pages in between. And just kind of get that done. That way you're at least still earning revenue from it, and you're not excluding readers who only operate with e-readers. Because even if you're an indie publisher, if you use your own ISBN and you publish it on Draft to Digital, libraries can get it, which means you're still getting library readers, even if it's an ebook. So don't sell yourself short. Always create an ebook with it. As you can see, both myself and Katie Wismer stuck with that $3.99. And I know that all of mine are at $3.99. I say all of them. Mine are 2. I have 2. The next one is going to be $3.99. Paperback might be a little bit more expensive. Depends on how long it is. If it's around the same page length, it's going to be the same price. But, and I'll be honest with you, on that $3.99, I will make about $2.50 on average. On the $10.99 on KDP, I think I just make $4.09. On Ingram Spark, so if you buy the paperback from any other retailer, I will make $1.80. Hence why that price is so high. So it's like, yeah, I'm making a lot on Amazon. But if you're not buying it from Amazon, I am making not even half. So, kind of help you understand that a little bit. But yeah, the pricing, you're going to have to be lower because it is self-published. But honestly, even at those lower prices, we still make more on average per book than a traditionally published author. Most of them make on average anywhere from 40 cents to $1, depending on how the contract was written up, how successful and popular they are, which is really sad to think about it, you know, because we're not all Stephen King, where every book we put out sells 1 million copies, because then it's like, cool, he made $1 million. Most of us will never sell 1 million copies of anything, even the collection of our books. I think Sarah Cannon talked about it. She's been publishing for 10 years. She is huge in the publishing scene, self-publishing scene. And I think she just hit 1 million books sold last year. And she is by far one of the biggest author tubers on YouTube. So keep that into consideration. You want to make about $3 to $4 per paperback sale, at least on Amazon, to cover for Ingram Spark, where you're currently making $1 to $2. I do put it at 55% because then bookstores do pick me up. And to me, that's good because that means that they in turn will sell them, right? So Powell's bought 20 copies of The Ones. So if you still haven't purchased your copy and you'd like to, I highly suggest going to powells.com and ordering from there, helping out the small bookstore, because I've already made my money on it, so it's all going to them, which is fantastic. They can have all the money. But that, to me, it's like I wouldn't have made those 20 sales without it, and I'm okay at the time making that $1.33, because that ended up being, what, like $23 for me, and, like, yeah, it's not a lot, but it's also showing it helped me get to earning enough money back on what I'd spent on it and helping push the sales overall, because it's still showing us sales. And I think just keep that in mind. So look at your prices, consider the 55% discount on Ingram Spark if you use them. I know it's going to break your heart, but at least in the beginning, get as many people onto your book as possible. If they don't know you exist, they're not going to read your work. So keep that in mind, keep your pricing in mind, and without further ado, before this becomes another 20-minute video, which I fear it already is, very quickly, let's look at those back covers. We're not going to look at all of them necessarily, however, let's look at them one by one, and I'll put them up on the screen for you guys, okay? We have She is the Sun, we have Poems for the End of the World, we have She is the Poem, and then we have Missed Arrows. Yes, these are all the indie published ones, because for whatever reason, I can't seem to find the back covers for the other ones. They are not on Amazon. I have no idea why. But that aside, as you'll notice, it usually has a excerpt on the back, and we're also looking at very simplistic drawings, if there are one. Same color as the front cover, which you don't necessarily find with other genres, both within all of fiction and then non-fiction. And it's just very simplistic, and the best way to do it is just to include part of your favorite poem, the opening poem, however you want to do it. Both of mine actually do have the opening poem, the one that actually sets off the entire story, on the back. I'm thinking, because there's no opening poem for my third collection, so I'm definitely going to have to change that around. But it also doesn't have to be the very opening poem. It could be your favorite. You're the author. Odds are you're the one telling the cover designer what direction you want to go. You can go ahead and choose that. But it's very simplistic. We're not trying to go over the top by any means, shape, or form. Again, mine is a lute, refers back to the bard. And then you've got the beautiful line art of the flower on She is the Sun. Poems for the End of the World kind of goes back to the galaxy colors that you saw on the front, but with more of the, if you are underwhelmed by me, please just let me go. And I think it's that look of substance use that really hits home. If you know, you know. Like, you don't have to be the one with a substance abuse problem. If you've been with someone who has that problem, you already know where that's going. And it's a very strong element. And then She is the Poem is the simplest of all of them. Not She is the Poem, sorry, Lavender Haze. I am all over the place, I do apologize. But Lavender Haze and She's the Poem are the exact same. It is the lighter color background, the darker same color on the words, and just mention one of the early poems in it. So I think the back cover is probably going to be the easiest for poets. Oh my gosh, I'm losing my voice. I am so sorry. Not losing my voice. I'm losing my focus. That's what that is, because I've been filming for 40 minutes, and this should definitely not be a 40-minute video at all. We're just going to blame the dogs. So those are all of my tips on blending in with traditionally published books, part 2. So let me know down in the comments because I know I asked this about the blurbs, taglines, but also the pricing. What pricing do you base yours off of? Are you looking at other indie authors? Are you trying to match the traditionally published? Do you go based on page count, on genre? Let me know down below. Like I said, $3.99 to $4.99 is what I recommend for indie authors for ebooks. Always so recommend having them. But thank you so much for watching. I know my brain is so scattered today. We're gonna move on from that. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like, comment, subscribe, all the clicky button things. And I will see you all next week with another dive. Hopefully my brain is all in one piece. Bye.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across the room. Damn, what a hell of a view. I feel good.